Hi, welcome to An Open Mind, a show about walking the path of life. My guest today is JoyDawn, and JoyDawn is an exceptional healer. She's been doing a lot of different kinds of healing from what I know of her, and she may have some surprises for us too. But when I first met JoyDawn, she was very involved in Reiki, and now she has branched out to Reiki and some other modalities too. And she's here to talk to us about her path and her life as a healer. Welcome.
Thank you, Anita. It's good to be here.
Nice to have you here. So tell me, JoyDawn, you've been doing healing work for a long time, haven't you? How did you get started in it?
Well, I think I really came out of the chute doing this. I'm not really sure because my first conscious memory was when I was 4. Mm-hmm. And that's when I really began to believe that there was something between sound and energetic healing or energetic work. I used to like to get in a walnut tree on the property, and then I would sing to God. And at that time, my only archetype for God was Jesus. And one day when I was singing, let's see, what was the name of that song? We Are Climbing Jacob's Ladder.
Oh, I remember that one.
Jesus came to me, and I wasn't afraid or apprehensive or anything. It just seemed like the most normal thing to me. So it was like there was music and then there was God. When in reality there was God and then there was music. But nonetheless, I was not that educated yet. But there was this correlation for myself. And after that, I just continued to walk in that path and continue to take more and more different disciplines in my heart, I guess, and then kind of put them together in a way that worked for me and a way that worked for what I was doing energetically and healing. And as I've continued to grow energetically, then my healing has also, or not my healing, the healing that comes through me.
Right.
Make that very clear. I just facilitate the sacred space for that. So I just do what comes to me, and whatever their angels or guides or whatever it is that they're asking to do, and I allow that to just happen, and then the person has a chance to either accept it or reject it, and maybe they're ready and maybe they're not, and either way, at least they had that opportunity.
You bring up a good point. I've talked to a lot of healers, and there are different schools of thought about healing and whether you can just offer a healing to someone or you need to ask their permission. And some people say, well, you can ask permission from their higher self or their soul, and then others say, no, you have to have actual permission. So what are your feelings about that?
Well, I came from a mixed teachers that told me different things as well. And for me, normally if someone comes to me, then I know that they're open, at least at some point. They may not be as open as they think they are, and they find that out later.
That's true.
When they're not ready to accept the changes that are necessary. But I feel this way, that there are some people that need to be helped even though their personality doesn't know it. And since we're all perfect and we all have the goddess and the God in us, then that is what wants to be created, and that's what wants to be manifested. And so whatever it takes for that to happen, I think is the process of what happens when they're in that state. As I continue to call it the sacred state, the state of grace, the state of God, the state of creativity, the state of whatever. So I think that I certainly have never done anything to do any harm to anyone. And as long as that's what my intention is, and that's as long as that's where I keep my energetic work, I feel like I'm saved. I'm not going to go to hell this time around.
Well, yeah, and of course there are different thoughts about hell too.
That's true.
Well, tell me, what is your experience when you are healing? If someone wanted to be a healer, maybe they are a healer and they don't recognize it, how would you tell them? How do you know?
Well, that's a really good question, because I really don't even know how to answer that, because each person is so different. I think that if you really have a propensity for something, that it's something that you really long for, then you're just going to gravitate towards that one way or the other.
Yeah.
I think that we're all healers. I mean, so to me, there isn't anyone that can't heal. particularly themselves, because we're hardwired for that, actually. But I don't know. I have never met anyone that couldn't do healing.
Okay, good answer. Well, the reason I ask that is because I get asked that question all the time. When I do readings, people say, "Am I a healer?" And I think sort of the way you do that, everybody's a healer. Do you want to use it or not? And that's kind of what I'm hearing you say too.
Right.
Yeah.
I think that's true.
But when you work on someone who has like a physical imbalance or something, do you work on chakras, or do you work with sound, or do you work with the Rehutak or the Reiki or whatever, or do you just do whatever comes to you?
Well, I actually do whatever comes through me. So when I didn't have Rehutak, and even before I had Reiki, I did what I had, and that was enough.
Yeah.
And I have to continue to remind myself that no matter what comes through me, that is enough. And that is what is designed to happen at that particular energetic session, because every session is different. I mean, even for myself, I continue to go to healers myself and to continue to improve and to be able to offer more than what I did the time before. So I think that it just depends. It all comes from the same source. It all comes from the universal being, or the great creator, or Tao, or whatever name you choose to call it.
Yeah. Well, there's another thing I would like your opinion about, and that is this thing about why doesn't everybody heal? I mean, people come to healers and sometimes they leave and they're just the same. I've never heard of anybody leaving worse, but sometimes it just doesn't work, and everybody has their different take on what that is. What is yours?
Well, I think there's a lot of factors there. First of all, I have known people that have come to me and gotten worse afterwards. They felt like they were getting worse, but in reality, it was just energetically things moving differently. And so they weren't comfortable in that space, and so they felt like, ooh, And in reality, they should have been going, Yahoo! Because once that shift occurs, then there's room and opportunity for more good stuff to come to us. And it's when it's all blocked and jammed up like that, cellularly, that when we start tweaking it, then it may appear that it's not very pleasant. In fact, you'll get the same experience when you are doing exercise. If you're not used to, or yoga, you're the yoga teacher. So, when our body isn't used to moving in certain ways, well, the same thing with our minds and our spirits and our souls. We're not real pliable down here. So, but to get further on past that is that I think that people sometimes on the left brain they want to be healed, or on the left brain they want their lives to be different, but in reality either they're not willing, they're not ready, or there may be some real reasons karmically or energetically why they need to continue to hold on to this for whatever reason. And I myself have struggled with things on a reoccurring basis throughout my life, that I continue to go through layers. As the original Shrek would say, Donkey, you're like an onion, and Donkey kept saying, no onions, I don't want onions. But it's the layers, and it's the layers, and it's the layers. And so I think that's why some people experience themselves, or feel that they're experiencing themselves as not being better, or not moving towards wholeness, when in reality that's the only way we can move.
Well, I absolutely agree, and especially about the layers, because throughout my life also I've had health problems and childhood trauma and that sort of thing to work through, and every time I think I've worked through it, something else gets stirred up, and you go, oh well, now this, and then now this, and then it's like getting down to the root of it and just continuing on. So would you recommend that your clients come back more than once, or work it through on their own, or do you just leave that up to them, or what?
Well, I've never recommended that somebody come back. I think that it really has to come from the individual. And if they want to grow, if they want, because that's all healing is on any level, or energetic work is about growing. And some people grow at different levels, and some people are more open and willing to. I mean, I'm always one to be pushing,
Yeah.
I'm pushing the edge all the time on my particular growth, because that's just the way I came in. And it's just my personality as well. I mean, it's not just the way I came in. It's something that I've continued to promote. So I think, if they want to come back, that's great. I wonderful, because you can always go in for a tune-up. I mean, even if you're okay. I mean, what's wrong with growing more and more and more?
Absolutely, absolutely. So I noticed we have a table full of absolutely wonderful stuff here. Could you tell us a little bit about what you brought?
I certainly can, with great joy. But before I start that, I just want to let you, not you, because you already know this, but people that may be listening that don't know, that none of this is necessary. And none of the things that I actually do are necessary either. But until we reach a high enough consciousness where we can just accept our healing, in that case, we wouldn't even need to be healed, because we would already be whole. But anyway, these things are just kind of for us as human beings on this earth. And because for me and my experience, it has to do with sound. So a lot of these objects have sound. And these tinctures, which I probably won't do because it might screw up your microphones.
No,
but,
please do.
Okay. They have different sounds. And sounds are frequencies. And since our body and our spirit and our minds are frequencies, then it resonates to a certain energetic field. Whereas these tinctures, and both of these sets of tinctures have come from lamas in different places in Tibet and in India. And when I use these on individuals, I don't always use them. But when I do, it works on different energetic fields. And then this is also music. So this is Alan Burns, Alan and Anita Burns.
I recognize that
Chakras
one.
Gone Wild, and this is kind of like my foundation for everything. That's just like the beginning level where I start out before I'm going to be doing any energetic work. And
We didn't ask her to bring that.
No, I swear they did not ask me to bring that. But it's really a good source. But I always use music of some type when I'm doing energetic work. And then sometimes geometric forms can create different space. This is a pyramid, and as we all know, the pyramids have lots, and that particular shape has lots of power. And then I use the candle for the light, and so I always have a candle. Lots of candles, and I did not light the incense for people that are sensitive to that, but I usually do incense before they come in, and then kind of clear clear out the room and the space, and but clear it out so if there's any allergy things going on. Then I also use different kinds of stones.
That's a beautiful kyanite.
It is a beautiful kyanite, and a very dear friend of mine gave that to me, and it's very sacred to my heart, and it's done a lot of great healing. And this is a friend of mine. She's fairly new to my collection. So I use stones as well.
And what is that? That's not a rose quartz, is it? It's banded.
No, it actually is a rose.
Rose something or other.
It's a rose. Yes, it is
Don't you
a rose.
hate it when that happens?
Like crystallite or, no. Not agate. Well, anyway.
Well, whatever.
Moving along.
It's a beautiful pink
Yeah, she's
crystal.
beautiful, and I'm waiting for the
May
day.
I?
Oh, please. Yes, please take.
This is very intriguing. I love the colors.
It is. It's a sweet piece. She's very nurturing, and she's very gentle, and I'm waiting to see the inner fire, and I think that's coming. And this piece is a topaz, smoky quartz.
Smoky quartz.
Yes. And so this is for other types of energetic work. So sometimes I use these as well. And this particular piece here is an owl feather, which was made for me from a shaman in South Dakota. And I've had it since 2000. And this is really just a very special thing.
I'm sorry, is that a hawk or owl?
It's an owl feather.
Owl. You said that probably.
That's okay, no problem.
Because I was looking at it so intently, how beautiful it is.
And I use this one right here because this is the world, and or represents the
Oh,
world.
it has an etching. It's etched on there.
It is.
Oh,
So
beautiful.
whenever my philosophy is that whenever I'm doing a healing, either for myself or energetic work for myself or anyone else, I'm doing it for the world. Because when one person is more whole, the whole world is more whole. So I always have the world on my altar as well.
What a nice philosophy.
Well, thank you. And then I have these fun little things that I make and I give to people when they come to see me. And what it is it's to steal a line from the
Forrest Gump.
Forrest Gump, yes. It's life is like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get. So we mix these up after the treatment or the session, and they choose one. And then, it's up to them. Oh, you have to choose one. Okay.
All right.
And it's amazing how many times that they'll get one that is just what they came for.
Choose again.
Choose again. See? Okay, so...
Self-deception. Uh-oh. That's a good one. I'll have to think about that.
Yeah, but even if you choose again, it just means that whatever's in your life right now that may be creating something, you could choose something differently. So it doesn't even have to mean that you have to pick another card.
I do. Purification.
Oh, well, there
That's
you go.
it.
And then I saved this one for last, and I won't pick it up, but this is a sacred rattle that was made by Dan Long, who is a Cherokee from the Midwest. And it has an antelope's leg, which antelope medicine in some native cultures are for action, so you want to have action. And it has wolf, which is the teacher. It has coyote, which is the trickster, which we all have. And of course, turtle, which is Earth Mother and fertility and other things. And then it has rabbit for fear, because as human beings, we usually have fear in us someplace or another. And then it has a sacred bark piece right here. And so this is a very powerful piece, and it's fairly new to my collection. In fact, I just got it at your retreat at the Idlewild retreat last May, I believe it was. So it wasn't even calling, I didn't even notice it the first day. And I don't even know if it was out the first day, but the next morning when I came in for breakfast, I felt this call to this table. And I just was like, it was like a magnet. And I hadn't seen it or anything, it just drew me to it. And so I picked it up, and I was going to be doing a session right after that. So I thought, oh, okay, I'll use it for that. And I picked it up and offered it up to the spirit, and it just started vibrating.
Ooh.
It was just, it was like, whoa, what do we have here? So
It was definitely yours then.
Yes, it was. Yes, it definitely is mine. And I don't use it all the time, but I use it when it is required. I even use it for me. And just last Friday, I was lying next to it to get some of that energy for myself. But it's a very powerful piece.
I can feel it too. I absolutely agree. There's one thing here that is conspicuous by its absence, and that is sage. Now, I'm not a big fan of sage. I mean, it doesn't sit well with me, but I know a lot of other people, healers especially, use a lot of sage. So is it something you just didn't bring, or something you don't use?
Normally, I never use sage. It's just, well, first of all, it's hard to get that smell out. And also, I don't think that it's mandatory, even though I love sage outside.
I like it in my turkey.
I loved it. Oh, yes, and your turkey is quite delicious, by the way. I love to touch it when it's growing, but to burn it, it's just too harsh. And I have allergies myself, and I'm really sensitive to other people that have, I'm just very sensitive to almost anything, but particularly smell.
Well, what kind of incense do you particularly like?
Naj Champa.
Nag Champa?
That's really the only kind I use.
That's my favorite too. Yeah, we have a lot in common. Okay, this is just great. So, if people were wanting to reach you, where would they find you?
Well, they could go on my website.
Dawningofjoy.com.
Yes.
Okay. And do you have an email they could reach you at if you want to? You don't have to give that, but if you'd like to.
Oh, yes, I definitely have an email. It's dawningofjoy@gmail.com.
At gmail.com.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that you did healings at our last retreat, and I'm hoping that you will join us each time because we had so many people say that they had an extraordinary experience with you.
Well, thank you.
All right. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
And thank you for watching. Please remember to subscribe to our show so that you don't miss a minute of all the wonderful guests that we bring to you.